I used to think my Grandma Aurora was an open book, each page filled with the warmth of her laughter and the sweet aroma of her famous apple pie. Her blue eyes sparkled like a summer sky, and her embrace felt like the safest place in the world. She had a way of making everything seem simple, as if love and kindness were the only things that mattered. I remember sitting at her feet, listening to her gentle stories about life, family, and the little joys that filled her days. But as I grew older, I began to realize that she had her own secrets, layers of her life that she chose to keep hidden, tucked away like treasures, only to be uncovered with time. After Grandma passed, our family home felt achingly quiet, as if the walls themselves were mourning her absence. One rainy afternoon, while rummaging through the attic, I stumbled upon a dust-covered wooden box, its surface marred with age. It had been tucked away behind old furniture, forgotten in the shadows of time. Curiosity pulled at me, and I felt a familiar warmth in my heart, as if she were beckoning me closer. As I opened the box, a musty scent filled the air, mingling with the sweet memories of her cooking. Nestled inside, I discovered a leather-bound diary, its cover worn and faded, the edges frayed from years of gentle handling. The moment I held that diary in my hands, a shiver ran down my spine. It was heavier than I expected, as if it held the weight of secrets long kept. The pages, yellowed with time, whispered stories waiting to be told. I could almost hear her voice, soft and melodic, guiding me through every word. I took a deep breath, filled with a mix of anticipation and trepidation, and opened it. The ink had faded, but remained legible, each stroke a testament to the thoughts and feelings she poured into this hidden treasure. As I read the first few lines, I felt a connection to her that transcended the years. I was taken aback by the realization that Grandma Aurora's life was far more intricate than I had ever imagined. The stories she shared with me were mere glimpses into a world filled with heartache, love, and sacrifice. I uncovered tales of a forbidden love that blossomed against the backdrop of a turbulent time, a wartime sacrifice that echoed with the pain of loss and the strength of resilience. Each entry drew me deeper into her past, revealing layers of emotion and complexity that had remained hidden behind her gentle smile. As I turned the pages, I could feel the warmth of her spirit wrapping around me, comforting yet bittersweet. I was not just reading her words. I was walking alongside her in a time long gone, feeling the pulse of her heart, sensing her fears and hopes. It was as if the diary was a bridge connecting our generations, and I became acutely aware of the legacy she had woven through the fabric of our family. This discovery shook me to my core. My beloved grandmother, the epitome of love and gentleness, had navigated a life filled with struggles and choices that shaped the woman she became. I felt a mix of awe and sorrow, realizing how little I knew of her true story. The diary promised revelations that would challenge everything I believed about her and our family's history. I could sense the weight of her unspoken words, the emotions she had bottled up, and the lessons she had hoped to pass down through the generations. If you'd like to walk this path with me, to uncover the layers of love, sacrifice, and hidden legacies that my Grandma Aurora left behind, I invite you to stay close. Together we will journey through her diary, revealing the powerful secrets she held dear. And perhaps, in doing so, we will learn more about ourselves and the bonds that tie us across time. In the heart of the late 1930s, Willow Creek was a small town cradled by fields of golden wheat and bordered by whispering woods, where the air was thick with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers and the laughter of children echoed like music on warm summer evenings. Life moved at a gentle pace, each day unfolding like the petals of a sunflower turning slowly toward the sun. The sunrises painted the sky in hues of soft pink and lavender, promising another day filled with simple pleasures. Among its quaint wooden houses and picket fences lived a young girl named Aurora. She was a curious soul, her wide, bright eyes constantly sparkling with the wonder of the world around her. With her dark hair cascading like a waterfall of silk down her back, the Aurora would often be found exploring the meadows, her imagination transforming the familiar landscape into realms of adventure. She would gather wildflowers, weaving them into crowns that she would proudly wear as she danced through the fields. her laughter intertwining with the rustling of leaves overhead. Aurora's family was a close-knit unit, grounded in love and hard work. Her father, a sturdy man with hands worn from years of toil, would rise with the dawn to tend to the farm, while her mother, gentle and nurturing, filled their home with warmth and the aroma of freshly baked bread. The kitchen was the heart of their home, where they shared meals that nourished not just their bodies, but their bonds. The clinking of silverware and the soft murmur of conversation created a symphony of comfort that wrapped around them like a soft quilt. Her older brother Thomas possessed dreams that soared high above the fields. With his head often lost in books about aviation, he would share grand tales of flying through the clouds, igniting a spark of longing in Aurora's heart. She admired him, not just for his aspirations, but for the way he saw the world. A world filled with possibilities beyond the horizon. Then there was Lily, her younger sister. A delicate spirit, these poetic musings often echoed the beauty of the flowers they played among. Together, they would lay on the cool grass, stargazing at night, their imaginations painting stories among the constellations. Yet beneath the surface of this idyllic life, Aurora felt a quiet yearning, a whisper in her heart that spoke of something more. She would sit by the window in the early hours, watching the sun rise, feeling the pull of the world beyond Willow Creek. The stories from Thomas about distant lands and adventures filled her with a bittersweet ache. She loved her family fiercely, but there was an undeniable restlessness within her, a longing to uncover the mysteries that lay beyond the fields and the gentle hills. Days passed in a rhythmic routine, each moment a thread woven into the fabric of her young life. Aurora found solace in the pages of books, losing herself in tales of brave heroes and far-off places, while the sun cast playful shadows on the floor of her room. She would often escape to the old oak tree at the edge of their property, its gnarled branches reaching out like inviting arms. There, she would sit for hours, the rustling leaves whispering secrets as she penned her thoughts, dreams, and the occasional poem into a weathered notebook, her heart spilling onto the pages. Evenings were a time of togetherness, with the family gathered around the wooden table, sharing stories of their day. Aurora would listen intently, her heart swelling with love for her family, but underneath it all, the quiet ache of wanting more would linger. It was not dissatisfaction, but a gentle awareness that life held complexities beyond their little town. The laughter and camaraderie wrapped around her like a warm blanket, yet the flicker of curiosity burned bright, urging her to seek out the stories hidden in the world. One fateful afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow over Willow Creek, Aurora wandered farther than usual. She found herself by the riverbank, where the water danced over smooth stones, glistening like diamonds under the fading light. The beauty of it made her heart ache with a sense of longing. It was here, amidst nature's symphony, that she began to contemplate the future. What lay beyond the hills? What adventures awaited her? The thought both thrilled and terrified her, for with it came the understanding that to step beyond the familiar would mean leaving behind the warmth of her family. As she sat on the riverbank, the cool breeze tousling her hair, Aurora felt the weight of her dreams pressing against her chest. The world was vast, filled with untold stories and experiences waiting to be uncovered. Yet the love for her family anchored her, creating a delicate balance within her heart. She wanted to explore, to discover who she could be outside the confines of Willow Creek, but she was torn by the fear of losing the very essence of what made her feel safe and cherished. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of deep blue, and as the first stars began to twinkle above, Aurora took a deep breath, feeling both the thrill of anticipation and the comfort of home. She understood, even then, that life was a tapestry of choices, each thread colored by love, sacrifice, and the dreams we dare to chase. In that moment, with the cool grass beneath her and the soft sounds of nature surrounding her, she made a silent promise to herself. She would honor her roots while daring to reach for the stars. Little did she know, the path ahead would be filled with both light and shadow, testing her resolve and shaping the woman she would become. The innocence of her childhood would soon be challenged by the complexities of life. but the love of her family and the dreams she held close would guide her through the storms that lay beyond the horizon. And as she rose to head home, the stars above twinkled with the promise of adventure. An adventure that would intertwine her fate with the very fabric of history, forever altering the course of her life and those she held dear. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over Willow Creek, the air began to change, carrying in it whispers of a world that was shifting beneath the surface. The once familiar sounds of laughter and play began to intertwine with the distant echoes of something darker, something that would soon touch the lives of everyone in the town. The radio, which had been a source of music and stories, now crackled with news from far away, each announcement a reminder that the world beyond their peaceful existence was in turmoil. Aurora, sitting on the porch with her family, listened intently as the voice of the announcer filled the air with talk of battles and countries in conflict. Her father shifted uneasily in his chair, while her mother clutched a quilt tightly around her shoulders, as if it could shield them from the encroaching fear. Thomas, ever the dreamer, leaned forward with a spark in his eyes, his imagination already painting vivid pictures of adventure and heroism. "This is our chance to be part of something bigger," he declared, his voice the mix of excitement and naivety. But Aurora felt a different stirring within her, one that whispered of uncertainty and danger. The market, once a place bustling with friendly exchanges, now buzzed with hushed conversations and worried glances. Neighbors gathered in small groups, their voices low, sharing letters from relatives who had enlisted, their words tinged with pride, but heavy with an unseen weight. Aurora caught snippets of conversations about young men leaving their families behind, about the possibility of never returning. The realization that life as they knew it was about to change settled heavily in her chest, igniting a restlessness that had been simmering beneath her surface. In the stillness of her room, Aurora found solace among her books, but the stories that once captivated her now felt distant and hollow. The characters embarking on grand adventures seemed worlds away from the reality she faced. She gazed out of her window, watching the trees sway gently in the breeze, but even their familiar rhythm felt disrupted. The war that had once seemed like a distant rumble was becoming a thunderous presence, shaking the foundations of her safe little world. As the days passed, an air of tension enveloped Willow Creek. News of enlistments spread through the town like wildfire, and with it came a mixture of fear and excitement. Aurora's parents, protective and anxious, began to speak in worried tones about their children's futures. They often exchanged glances, their unspoken fears hanging heavy in the air. Aurora felt the weight of their love, but it coiled around her heart like a vice, squeezing her spirit, urging her to question the life she had always accepted. Then one fateful afternoon, everything changed with the arrival of Elias. He appeared almost out of nowhere, stepping into Willow Creek like a breath of fresh air against the backdrop of an impending storm. Dressed in the crisp uniform of the army, he carried an air of confidence that was both intriguing and intimidating. His posture was straight, shoulders squared, and his eyes held stories that felt too deep for someone so young. There was a quiet intensity about him, the silent strength that drew Aurora in, even as it set her heart racing. Their first encounter was unexpected. Aurora had been wandering the outskirts of town, lost in her thoughts, when she stumbled upon him by the riverbank. He stood there, gazing into the water, the sun casting a golden halo around his figure. The moment their eyes met, something electric sparked in the air between them. Aurora felt an inexplicable pull, as if the universe was weaving their paths together. She could sense a depth to him that was different from the local boys she had grown up with. Elias was a man shaped by experiences she could only begin to imagine. "Hello," she said, her voice softer than she intended, as she approached cautiously. He turned to her, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, before he offered a small, genuine smile. "Hello," he replied, his voice rich and smooth, carrying a hint of something foreign, something that made her heart flutter. They stood in silence for a moment, the world around them fading as they took each other in. Aurora noticed the way his brow furrowed slightly, as if he were lost in a thought too heavy to share. She felt the urge to reach out, to ask him what troubled him. But instead, they exchanged trivialities, laughter punctuating the weight of the unspoken tension between them. As the days turned into weeks, Elias became a frequent presence in Willow Creek, often seen helping farmers during harvest or lending a hand at the local store. His laughter rang out like music, drawing the attention of the townsfolk, but there was always a shadow lurking in his gaze, a reminder that his life was intertwined with secrets. Aurora found herself captivated by him, her heart swelling with a mix of admiration and concern. In the quiet moments they shared, often by the river where they first met, Aurora could sense the weight of his world pressing down on him. He spoke of the war with a mixture of pride and sorrow, as if he were caught in a whirlwind of duty and longing. "It's strange," he confessed one evening, "to feel like you're part of something greater, yet so utterly alone." His eyes searched hers, looking for understanding, and in that moment, Aurora felt the stirrings of a connection that transcended the innocence of her youth. But beneath the surface of their budding romance lay an undercurrent of danger. Aurora could sense the gravity of his unspoken mission, the way his shoulders tensed whenever a siren wailed in the distance, or when a letter arrived bearing grim news. She could not shake the feeling that Elias was entwined in something perilous, that as she lay awake at night, the moonlight casting shadows across her room, she grappled with the implications of his presence in her life. The thrill of his company was intoxicating, yet it sparked a fear deep within her, a realization that she was standing on the precipice of a world that was no longer safe. As the war loomed closer, its shadows creeping into their lives, Aurora found herself at a crossroads. The dreams she once cherished began to shift, twisted by the weight of reality. Her heart yearned for adventure like Thomas, but it was now tempered with an understanding of the cost. With each passing day, the lines between love and duty, safety and danger, grew blurred, pulling her deeper into a web of emotions she never anticipated. In the midst of all this, Aurora made a choice. She would embrace the uncertainty, the complexity of her feelings for Elias, and the looming specter of war. She would step into the unknown with her heart wide open, even if the path ahead was fraught with peril. After all, in a world where innocence was slipping away, perhaps the only way forward was to confront the shadows head-on, armed with love, hope, and the strength of generations past guiding her way. In the quiet of Willow Creek, under the cover of twilight, Aurora found herself drawn to the old oak tree behind the church. It was here, sheltered by its gnarled branches, that she and Elias had forged a fragile sanctuary amidst the chaos that threatened to envelop their lives. As she waited, her heart fluttered with a mix of hope and fear, the dusk wrapping around her like a comforting shawl, while the shadows whispered the stories of those who had come before. When Elias arrived, his presence was a balm to her anxious spirit. The way his eyes met hers felt electric, a connection that transcended the uncertainty of their world. "I've been thinking about you," he confessed, his voice low and earnest, as if the very act of sharing his feelings were a risk in itself. Aurora smiled shyly, the warmth of his words igniting a spark within her that chased away the encroaching darkness. As they spoke, secrets began to unravel in the space between them. Elias took a deep breath, the weight of his truth pressing against him like a shroud. "There's something you need to know about me, Aurora," he said, uncertainty flickering in his gaze. "I am not just a soldier. I was a scientist in Germany. I deserted my post because I couldn't bear the thought of contributing to the destruction my country was causing." His confession hung heavy in the air, a revelation that deepened the bond they had begun to forge. Aurora felt her heart race, a mixture of admiration and concern coursing through her. "But why? What are you hiding from?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias took her hands in his touch grounding her in that moment. "There's an artifact," he explained, the urgency lacing his words. "A powerful encryption device that could change the course of this war. My late mentor, a clockmaker, hid it before he died, and now I must find it before it falls into the wrong hands." As he spoke, Aurora could sense the turmoil within him, a storm of fear and resolve. "I've been deciphering clues from his journals," he continued, his eyes searching her for understanding. "I believe it's hidden beneath the old church, in a labyrinth he created to keep it safe." The realization sent a shiver down her spine. The church was a place of solace, yet now it felt like a labyrinth of secrets and dangers. "Elias, if the Nazis discover you," she began, the unspeakable consequences lingering in the air between them. Yet as he looked at her, she felt the weight of her own choice pressing upon her. Should she protect him, the man who had swiftly become the anchor of her heart, or safeguard her family from the risks his presence brought. Before she could voice her fears, a rustling sound nearby broke the moment, drawing their attention to the shadows. Aurora's breath caught as she spotted the outlines of figures moving stealthily through the underbrush. The fear she had carried began to crystallize into a cold reality. "Elias, we have to go," she urged, urgency flooding her voice. They slipped into the cover of the trees, hearts racing as they navigated their way back to the safety of her home. Once inside, Aurora could feel the tension thickening the air. The world outside was shifting, whispers of war inching closer to their small town. She could see the worry etched on her family's faces, the way they huddled together, their conversations filled with hushed tones and fearful glances. Each day felt heavier, the community brimming with suspicion as Nazi agents, disguised as civilians, prowled the streets, their eyes scanning for any hint of dissent. As days turned into nights, the diary she had hidden away became her confidant, a place where her fears and hopes could intertwine. She poured her heart into its pages, wrestling with her feelings for Elias and the growing dangers around them. "What if I lose him?" she wrote one evening, tears smudging the ink. "What if my love brings more pain than peace?" Yet alongside her fears, there grew a fierce determination. She could not let fear dictate her life. The world was changing, and so must she. With each stolen moment she spent with Elias, her heart swelled with an emotional clarity she had never known. They explored the depths of their connection, their conversations layered with laughter and the weight of what lay ahead. It was in these moments of intimacy that Aurora felt her world shift. She was no longer just a passive observer of life unfolding around her. She was becoming an active participant, her heart entwined with the fate of the man she loved. One evening, as they sat beneath the vast expanse of stars, Aurora turned to Elias, her voice steady, imbued with newfound courage. "We will find the artifact together. I want to help you," she declared, her determination breaking through the fear that had once held her captive. Elias's gaze softened, gratitude washing over his features. "You don't have to do this, Aurora. It's too dangerous," he said, concern flickering in his eyes. "But I want to," she insisted, her voice firm. "I cannot stand by while the world crumbles around us. If I can help protect my family, my community, and you, then I must try." In that moment, Aurora felt the weight of her choice solidify within her, a promise to face the shadows together, come what may. As they began to decipher the clues from Elias's mentor, each step drew them closer to the hidden labyrinth beneath the church. The thrill of the hunt ignited a fire within Aurora, as if the very act of seeking out the artifact was a testament to her love and commitment. Yet the looming threat of the Nazis grew more palpable, the tension in Willow Creek thickening with each passing day. Aurora could sense it in the air, whispers of betrayal, then glances of suspicion, and the tightening grip of fear. With every entry in her diary, she chronicled not just the events unfolding around her, but also the evolution of her spirit. "I am no longer just Aurora, the girl sheltered by her family," she wrote. "I am a woman willing to fight for love, for freedom, for the future." Each word felt like a beacon of hope, guiding her through the darkness. The night before they planned to descend into the labyrinth, Aurora stood by her window, watching as the moon cast its silver light over Willow Creek. She knew the stakes were higher than ever, and yet as she thought of Elias, her heart brimmed with resolve. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. Two souls intertwined in a world torn apart by conflict, fighting for love and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The air was thick with the fresh tone of damp stone and dust as Aurora and Elias descended into the hidden chamber beneath the old church. Torches flickered, casting shadows that danced along the walls, echoing the history that lay trapped in this forgotten place. Each step felt like a heartbeat, quickening with anticipation and fear. The chamber opened before them, vast and dark, whispers of the past swirling around them like ghosts. In the center, on a pedestal draped in cobwebs, lay the artifact, a small, intricately designed device that hummed with an energy that resonated deep within Aurora's heart. Elias's eyes sparkled with a mix of triumph and trepidation as he approached it, his fingers trembling slightly. "This is it, Aurora," he breathed, reverence lacing his words. "This is what we've been fighting for." But the moment of victory was fleeting. A shudder ran through the stone as the sound of footsteps echoed ominously from the labyrinth beyond. Aurora's pulse quickened, a cold dread pooling in her stomach. They had been followed. The Nazi agents, relentless and cunning, had tracked them down. "Elias, we have to go," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper, panic gripping her throat. He nodded, but the weight of the artifact seemed to anchor them both. As they turned to flee, the entrance to the chamber was suddenly illuminated by harsh, blinding light. Shadows poured in, and Aurora's heart raced as she recognized the figures crossing the threshold, faces masked with the insignia of their impending doom. "Get back!" Elias shouted, shoving Aurora behind him, his body a shield against the encroaching darkness. The chaos erupted like a storm, gunfire cracking through the air and ricocheting off the stone walls. Aurora's instincts kicked in, her mind racing as she recalled the intricate twists and turns of the labyrinth. She had memorized every detail, every route plotted in her mind as if it were a lifeline. "Follow me," she yelled, grabbing Elias's hand, pulling him toward the narrow passageway that led deeper into the maze. They sprinted down the corridor, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them, the weight of their fear palpable in the air. But they were not fast enough. As they turned a corner, they were met with a group of agents blocking their path. The world seemed to slow as Aurora felt a wave of despair wash over her. "This way," she urged, pulling Elias back into a side passage. Their only hope now was to outmaneuver their pursuers. The labyrinth was alive. The labyrinth felt like a living entity, the cold stone walls seeming to close in around her as she fled. Each breath was a gasp, each step a reminder of the weight she carried, both the artifact and the echo of Elias's voice, now silenced. The adrenaline that had propelled her through the darkness began to fade, leaving her breath ragged and her heart heavy. Finally emerging into the light of the world above, she squinted against the brightness, feeling the bruises on her body throb with each heartbeat. She was home, but it felt like a foreign land, bruised and changed, and she was utterly alone. The silence that enveloped her was deafening. It was the absence of laughter, the quiet stillness where Elias's presence had once throttled with life. Aurora had always believed that silence could be a sanctuary, a place for reflection. But now it was a chasm, a void that swallowed her whole. She avoided mirrors, afraid to see the truth etched on her face, the grief that hung over her like a storm cloud. Aurora flinched at the sound of her name, a whisper of a reminder that she was still here, while he was not. The weight of this reality settled on her shoulders, heavier than the artifact she now guarded. In the days that followed, she crafted a facade of normalcy. To her family, she wore a mask of sorrow, a shadow of the woman they once knew. They offered condolences, their eyes lingering on her with pity, but they could not see the abyss that lay beneath her skin. They spoke of Elias's death as an accident, a tragic misfortune that had befallen the town. Aurora held tightly to the truth, a fire of rage burning silently within her. She felt the disconnection acutely, the gulf between what she felt and what she was allowed to show. The unbearable weight of her secret gnawed at her insides, but she pressed on, determined to protect the memory of the man she loved. The artifact, hidden beneath floorboards, felt like a living extension of herself. It pulsed with energy, whispering secrets only she could hear. As she touched it, a shiver coursed through her, an unspoken bond forged in the heat of crisis. The world outside shifted around her, shadows stretching longer, trust splintering into fragments. She began to see the signs, the furtive glances, the hushed conversations, the way people in Willow Creek moved, like they were part of a larger game, one she had yet to understand. Each day felt like a tightening noose, the weight of her secret pressing down on her soul. In the quiet of the night, she would sit with Elias's diary, her fingers trembling as she opened it for the first time since that fateful day. And pages felt familiar, yet foreign, filled with his words, his thoughts, and the dreams he had once shared with her. The ink was smudged in places, as if he had rushed to capture his thoughts. And she could feel the pulse of his presence in every line. Aurora poured her pain into the diary, not with poetic clarity, but in raw, jagged scrawls that mirrored the chaos within her. The words spilled out like a river, unfiltered and wild, a testament to the love they had shared and the loss that now consumed her. Days turned into weeks, and the grief morphed into something else, an ember of resolve flickering deep within her heart. She began to sift through Elias's notes, searching for clues hidden among his maps and sketches, fragments of a world now lost to her. Each time she unearthed a piece of his past, a surge of purpose filled the void left by his absence. The artifact was not just a remnant of a battle fought. It was a beacon, guiding her toward a truth she was only beginning to grasp. Aurora's first steps into this new reality were tentative, but they were steps nonetheless. She ventured into the local library, a place filled with dust and cobwebs, where secrets lay buried among the pages of forgotten books. The smell of aged paper was intoxicating, and she felt a kinship with the stories that had waited patiently to be uncovered. She lost herself in research, poring over texts that spoke of the artifact, its power, and the shadows that loomed at the edges of her town. Her heart ached with each revelation, but beneath the grief, a quiet determination began to take root. Aurora was no longer adrift. She was anchored by the memory of Elias, by the legacy he had left behind. The first threads of her purpose began to weave themselves into a tapestry of intention, one she would carry forward as she navigated the treacherous waters ahead. The pain was still raw, but it was accompanied by a flicker of hope, a promise to herself that she would not let his sacrifice be in vain. As she closed the diary for the night, the shadows danced around her, a reminder of the duality of her existence. She was both a grieving lover and a burgeoning protector, stepping into a role that would demand everything from her. The weight of the artifact pressed against her heart, a silent vow that she would honor Elias's memory, not through revenge, but through purpose and resolve. Aurora took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs, and for the first time since that day, she allowed herself to hope. Leaving Willow Creek felt like tearing away a piece of her own heart. The small town, once a cradle of cherished memories, now seemed like a cage. Aurora took one last look at the familiar streets, the gentle hills rolling away in the distance, and felt the weight of her decision settle firmly on her shoulders. She was not merely running. She was stepping into a larger world where shadows held secrets and dangers lurked in every corner. The bustling city awaited her, a stark contrast to the quiet life she had known. Yet it promised anonymity and safety, the very things he needed to protect the legacy of Elias. Settling into a modest apartment on a narrow street, she was surrounded by the sounds of a life she had not yet learned to embrace. The bustling of vendors, the laughter of children, and the distant echo of streetcars created a symphony that felt both foreign and oddly comforting. Each day she ventured out into the city, blending into the crowd while clutching the diary of Elias tightly in her bag. The pages had become her lifeline, a tether to the man she loved and the mission she had taken upon herself. Aurora sought out library and archives, places where she could lose herself among the musty pages of history and knowledge. With every hour spent poring over books, she unraveled not only the secrets of the artifact, but also the depths of her own resilience. The whispers of Elias echoed in her mind, guiding her through a labyrinth of codes and cryptic messages. The artifact was not simply an ancient object. It was a powerful intelligence tool, capable of deciphering enemy communications, a fact that electrified her with both fear and determination. As days turned into weeks, Aurora honed her skills. She learned the art of observation, recognizing the subtle movements of people around her, the way a passerby might linger too long, or how the tilt of a hat could signal something amiss. She practiced discretion, slipping in and out of conversations, gathering information like a spider weaving a web. One evening, while seated in a crowded cafe, she overheard two men speaking in low tones about troop movements. Her heart raced as she deftly scribbled notes, the thrill of her newfound abilities coursing through her veins. But it was not without sacrifice. The loneliness of her secret life crept in at the edges of her resolve. Nights were the hardest. The silence of her apartment felt oppressive, and the absence of Elias was a constant ache that tugged at her heart. She would often sit by the window, staring into the darkened streets below, longing for companionship, yet knowing that the path she had chosen demanded solitude. Each moment of loneliness was a reminder of the love she had lost, but it also fueled her determination. Every time she turned a page in Elias's diary, She felt his spirit urging her forward. He had fought for a cause, and she was determined to continue that fight. The threat from the Nazis loomed ever closer. Aurora could feel their presence in the city like a chill in the air, always lurking just beyond her line of sight. One late afternoon, as she walked back from the library, she spotted a man in a dark coat following her. Panic surged through her, and she ducked into a narrow alley, pressing herself against the cool brick wall. Her heart pounded in her ears as she watched the man pause, scanning the street, his eyes narrow. After what felt like an eternity, he turned away, and Aurora let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Moments like these were constant reminders of the danger she faced. She had to remain vigilant, her senses sharpened like a blade. Each close call only solidified her resolve, and she vowed to protect the artifact at all costs. It was more than just a piece of history. It was a beacon of hope, a chance to turn the tide against those who sought to use it for destruction. As she delved deeper into Elias's notes, she discovered intricate details about the artifact's capabilities. It could predict enemy maneuvers, decipher hidden messages, and even serve as a means of communication for those in the resistance. Aurora felt a swell of purpose. This was her destiny now. The once grieving young woman was transforming into a guardian of a powerful secret, wielding knowledge as her weapon. The more she learned, the more she understood the gravity of her mission. Each day brought not just the weight of what she had lost, but also the promise of what she could achieve. She was no longer just a woman in mourning. She was becoming a force to be reckoned with, a protector of the legacy that Elias had left behind. As she continued her studies, Aurora took the time to practice her skills in counterintelligence. She would spend hours in parks, observing people and blending into the background, all while gathering information. The thrill of her new life began to replace the sorrow she had felt, igniting a spark of hope within her. Yet the shadows were always present. The sense of danger felt like a cloak draped over her shoulders, heavy but familiar. Whenever she left her apartment, she moved with caution, always aware of the eyes that might be watching. Each night, she would lock the door and sit in the dim light of her living room, the diary open on her lap, poring over Elias's words as if they were a lifeline. Through it all, Aurora began to realize that the love she shared with Elias had not ended with his death. It had transformed, becoming a source of strength that propelled her forward. She was learning to harness her grief, turning it into a fierce determination to protect what they had both fought for. The world outside was fraught with peril, but within her, a quiet strength was blossoming, ready to meet whatever challenges lay ahead. Aurora was not merely surviving. She was evolving into the protector she was destined to be, driven by love, sacrifice, and the unyielding hope of a brighter future. As the war drew to a close, Aurora felt a mixture of relief and an ache in her heart, a bittersweet melody that resonated deep within her. The artifact had become an extension of her, a tool that allowed her to channel her grief and anger into something far greater than herself. Each piece of intelligence she transmitted to the Allies felt like a small victory, a way to honor Elias and all those who had sacrificed so much. She remembered the tension in the air, the quiet whispers of urgency, as she passed along crucial information that thwarted enemy plans. The thrill of those moments did not diminish the weight of her loss. Rather, it transformed her sorrow into a fierce determination to see justice served. With every victory for the Allies, Aurora felt the world shifting beneath her. The echoes of gunfire were replaced by the sounds of celebration, and the dark shadows that had loomed over her heart began to recede. When the announcement of peace finally came, it felt surreal, as if the weight of the world had been lifted. People poured into the streets, their faces painted with joy and disbelief. Yet Aurora stood back for a moment, absorbing the energy of the crowd, her heart swelling with pride and sorrow intertwined. She felt accomplished, yet the memories of those lost, including Elias, reminded her that victory was never without its costs. In this newfound peace, Aurora knew she could no longer be just a guardian of secrets and intelligence. She returned to a simpler life, maybe to a place similar to Willow Creek, where the air was crisp and the spirit of community thrived. There, she found purpose in helping those affected by the war. Her hands, once calloused from the burdens of secrecy, now embraced the task of healing. She organized gatherings to support families who had lost loved ones, and she shared stories of resilience, instilling hope in those who felt lost. The artifact, which had once felt like a heavy burden, now rested safely inside a delicate music box on her shelf, a cherished relic of love and sacrifice. It played a soft tune that reminded her of Elias, a melody that filled her home with warmth and whispered tales of their shared past. As the years turned into decades, Aurora transformed into the warm, wise grandmother known to many. Her hair, once dark and flowing, now shimmered silver, each strand a testament to the battles she had fought and the life she had lived. Children gathered around her, their eyes wide with wonder, as she recounted tales of bravery and love from a time long past. They listened, unaware of the weight behind her words, the unseen scars that shaped her reality. She embodied serenity, strength, and compassion. And although her extraordinary history remained woven quietly into her everyday presence, it was the love she shared that marked her legacy. The diary, a collection of her deepest thoughts and reflections, became a treasure trove for her grandchildren. In its pages, they found the story of a woman who had faced unimaginable trials and emerged not just unscathed, but transformed. Aurora spoke of the importance of love, sacrifice, and the resilience of the human spirit. She made sure that the lessons learned through pain and loss were not forgotten, but celebrated. Each time she opened the diary, it breathed life into her memories, illuminating the paths she walked and the choices she made. As she sat on her porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of origin pink, Aurora reflected on her journey. It was a life marked by profound courage and unwavering love, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude. The artifact, once a symbol of her pain, now represented the bridge to a future filled with hope. It stood as a reminder that even in the darkest times, love could guide one through the shadows, leading to a place of light and peace. The narrator, witnessing this serene figure, could not help but marvel at the depth of Aurora's past. There was an extraordinary world behind her gentle smile, a tapestry of experiences that shaped not only her life, but all those who were fortunate enough to know her. The diary revealed the layers of her existence, each entry a testament to the strength of her spirit. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the landscape, Aurora felt at peace. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her loss into love, and she had created a legacy that would endure long after she was gone. The war may have ended, but lessons lived on through her, woven into the fabric of her community, taught to her grandchildren, and cherished by all who had the privilege to call her grandma. As I sat in the quiet of my room, the sunlight streaming through the window painted warm patterns on the walls. I found myself drawn to Grandma Aurora's hidden diary once more. Each page was like a portal, a glimpse into a life rich with experiences that transcended time. The more I read, the more I realized that the stories I had treasured in my childhood were not mere tales, but profound reflections of courage and resilience. They were, in essence, the echoes of Aurora's spirit, alive and vibrant, whispering truths that resonated deeply within me. I could recall the evenings spent at her side, listening to her recount adventures filled with bravery, love, and sacrifice. They had seemed like fairy tales to my younger self, enchanting stories of a time long gone. But now, as I delved deeper into her words, I began to see them for what they truly were, a testament to her indomitable will in the face of adversity. Each story was a metaphor, a lesson wrapped in the fabric of her life, urging me to embrace my own challenges with the same quiet strength she had embodied. The diary unfolded like a map to Aurora's inner world, revealing the layers of her being that I had only glimpsed in fleeting moments. It was as if I were sitting across from her once again, her eyes sparkling with wisdom, sharing the weight of her journey, the sacrifices she made, the love she poured into every act of kindness, and the courage she summoned to protect those she cherished. All of this was woven into the fabric of her narrative. I understood now that her legacy extended far beyond the artifacts she once guarded. It lay in the stories she shared, the lessons she imparted, and the unconditional love she enveloped us in. Reflecting on my own life, I began to see parallels between our experiences. The struggles I faced, the moments of doubt and fear, were not so different from those Aurora had endured. Her journey through the shadows of war and loss illuminated my own path, guiding me through moments when I felt lost. I could feel her presence, a gentle reminder that resilience is born from love and that every challenge carries the seeds of growth. In her words, I found a source of strength that I hadn't realized I needed. Reading her diary became a ritual of sorts, each entry a candle lighting the dark corners of my heart. As I turned the pages, I allowed myself to feel the weight of her losses, the joy of her victories, and the bittersweet nature of her memories. It was a cathartic experience, one that brought clarity to my own emotions. I understood that her sacrifices were not in vain. They had shaped not only her legacy, but also the very fabric of our family. I felt a renewed sense of purpose as I embraced the lessons embedded in her stories, vowing to carry them forward into my own life. The diary also reminded me of the importance of sharing our hidden stories. Aurora's life was a testament to the power of storytelling, a way to connect across generations, to honor the past while inspiring the future. I realized that each of us has a story that deserves to be told, a legacy waiting to be shared. In honoring Aurora's life, I felt compelled to share her wisdom with others, to encourage them to uncover their own narratives and the beauty within their struggles. As I closed the diary, a sense of peace washed over me. I felt an overwhelming gratitude for the woman who had shaped my understanding of love, courage, and resilience. Aurora had transformed her pain into purpose, and through her stories she had gifted me a treasure more valuable than any artifact. I saw the diary not just as a collection of memories, but as a living document of her spirit, a guide that would continue to inspire me and those who came after me. In that moment, I made a promise to myself. I would honor Aurora's legacy by living a life infused with the same love and strength she had exemplified. I would share her stories, not only with my family, but with anyone willing to listen. I would remind others that even in the darkest of times, love remains a guiding light, illuminating the path toward hope and resilience. Aurora's journey had taught me that the true magic of life lies not in the absence of struggle, but in the way we rise to meet it. Her legacy was not just a collection of secrets or artifacts. It was the quiet strength she embodied, the wisdom she shared, and the love that transcended generations. As I reflected on her life, I could feel her spirit enveloping me, a warm embrace reminding me that I carried her within me, forever intertwined with my own story. And so I invite you to uncover, honor, and share your hidden stories. Embrace the richness of your experiences, for they hold the keys to understanding our shared humanity. Like Aurora, let us weave our narratives into the tapestry of life, each thread a testament to our resilience and love. In doing so, we not only honor those who came before us, but also inspire those who will follow. Together, we can create a legacy of hope, courage, and unwavering love that will echo through the generations to come. As we reflect on the life of Grandma Aurora, we find ourselves enveloped in a story that is as much about courage as it is about love and resilience. Aurora faced unimaginable hardships, yet she transformed her pain into a source of strength that not only carried her through, but also inspired those around her. Her journey, marked by the loss of Elias and the weight of the artifacts she protected, teaches us that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to rise and make a difference. Through her quiet determination, she became a beacon of hope, showing us that every sacrifice, every challenge faced with grace, can lead to a profound impact on the lives of others. Grandma Aurora's hidden diary is a testament to the power of storytelling. In its pages, she shared not just the adventures she experienced, but the deep wisdom that came from a life well lived. Her tales remind us that behind every person's journey lies a treasure trove of stories waiting to be uncovered. These narratives bind us together, connecting generations and reminding us of our shared humanity. As we read her words, we realize that her story is not just hers. It belongs to all of us who dare to embrace our pasts and share our truths. If you felt a connection to Aurora's story, then it has fulfilled its purpose. It serves as a reminder that stories like hers live on through those who listen and share them. They become a part of our collective consciousness, encouraging us to find our own voices amidst the noise of the world. So if Aurora's journey resonated with you, please take a moment to leave a like, showing your appreciation for the power of her narrative. Subscribe to our channel so you can hear more heartfelt tales that remind us of the strength found in vulnerability. And don't hesitate to share your thoughts below. Your reflections could inspire someone else to embark on their own journey of storytelling. As we come to the end of this chapter, I invite you to ponder a question that may linger in your heart. What secret do you believe Grandma Aurora held closest to her heart? Was it the memory of Elias, the stories that remained untold, or perhaps the lessons learned through trials and triumphs? As you contemplate this, remember that each of us carries our own secrets, our own stories that weave through the fabric of our lives. Let us honor Aurora's legacy by embracing the stories within us. For in sharing our experiences, we create connections that transcend time and space, nurturing a community grounded in empathy and understanding. So as you move forward, carry her spirit with you, and may you find the courage to share your own truths, just as she did. Together, we can ensure that the lessons of love and resilience echo through the generations, lighting the way for those who will follow in our footsteps.